What have you done to her, homie?
Nothing much, just showing her the internet.
What kind of?
Oh well, like this?
Well, Trump just announced Stargate, so that's happening. AI is being talked about again, like it hasn't already been talked about a lot in the past few years. I don't know, something about AI art and AI songs and other stuff. Nobody's talking about that, right? But I think it's a good time to talk about AI in story writing and how maybe it could be added to your story, or maybe you're already considering you already have AI in your story that you're writing, and maybe you just need some things to consider. We're going to talk about that.
So I think a good place to start would be to look to other examples and to see what types of AIs already exist in storytelling. Because, I mean, doing a little research, maybe you have your own ideas that you're just coming up with, you're totally original, but most of us do a little bit of research and see if there's something that maybe tickles our fancy. Just get an idea to dip your toes in the water in regard to the world of AI. So we got
if you're not doing research, then you're really lazy, and especially when you have AI as a tool to do research. Research has never been easier, and interestingly enough, I guess we'll add to the little, the talk that's going on with AI and AI writing. It's like, look, using it for research, you're going to use it no matter what because you have to Google things, and so AI is going to be used. But you also have to be careful more than ever because it feels like AI has been spitting out wrong information more than ever. I know when testing it and asking it questions now, it's been giving me a lot of answers that conflict within the sentence that it's giving me. So something to think about. But
yeah. For sure. I mean, you can even train it to a degree to contradict itself. So even if it isn't doing it already, I've seen people where they word a sentence one way and then word it slightly different to get it to change what it's saying. But even the concept of AI as a tool with our story, our lives, right? It's something that you could put into your story as well. And how would the characters use it as a tool? Could it be done in a way where you have contradicting information that causes problems? That's a source of conflict that the characters have to work through. Maybe they use AI to help resolve a conflict. Maybe it's something unrelated, or maybe it's both. So I think that could be one avenue in storytelling for sure.
Well, I'm pretty sure, I don't remember if it was a magical means or AI. I think it was magical means, but it's kind of the similar situation where, what is this, Civil War 2? The one with Captain Marvel being one of the bigger players in it in comics. They had a whole thing where one of the sides was they had a tool that could predict stuff. It was Minority Report, right? It was essentially Minority Report. They can predict a criminal before it happened, and it was some sort of algorithmic thing that wasn't always right. So the moral question came up, but of course, people were 100% behind it when they thought it was 100% correct. Turns out it wasn't. So then, created conflict. I mean, Minority Report's a good one to talk about, seeing as it's not technically AI, but I mean, you could easily just take the magical psychic people that were in that and change it with AI. We got this the exact same situation that they're solving crimes through algorithms.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's one way used. Yeah.
And it was never abused. Nothing ever went wrong with it in that story. Everything was totally
it was always
fine.
right. Yeah.
It was always right. That's right.
But yeah, it's the different type of ways that you use AI for your stories, because it could be the entire plot could revolve around one AI, whether that's a character that's the new robot that's designed, kind of like an iRobot that happened. You can have it where it's kind of controls all of life. I have a book, I'll talk about that later, heavily uses AI in the story as a characters, but also sometimes it's just a tool to kind of communicate how people think, and reflecting that and communicating with the AI, and kind of learn more about ourselves through learning about this character that essentially is an adult baby, right? So it's got an intelligence of adult, but it's emotionally stunted, right? So it just doesn't think like us, and so it's like us, it doesn't think like us, and helps us conceptualize our own ideas, our own emotions, psychology, or whatever.
Right. It cracks me up because that idea of using AIs and androids in order to see something in ourselves. Did you ever play Detroit Become Human? It's from a few years ago.
Well, I never played it back though, yeah.
Yeah, I played it, and in the game, it very much wants you to feel like these robots, I call them toasters by the end of it. I'm these toasters want human rights, and these toasters think that they are human, and they're not just here to serve us. And so throughout the game, anytime you had a choice to make where they're like, if you don't do what I want, I'm going to shoot this android. I'm like, God, like I did not care at all. So every choice I had, I worked against these things that were trying to get human rights because I'm like, they are not human. They're toasters, and that's all they are. And so I got like the bad ending, and it actually made the playthrough hilarious for me because I didn't care because they're robots. They're not people. So I think that
well, that's how you think about it, I guess.
That's what I'm saying. So that's something you have to consider. And maybe I'm a character in that world, and that's a view that comes into play. And somebody else has the side of, oh no, they are people. They're a reflection of us. We kind of made them. And there could be conflict between not even the AI android characters, but just the humans because of that. They see humanity in toasters for whatever reason. If you think your toaster is a person, it's not.
Well, what gives them a right to the humans, a right to exist, but not the robots? Why do they not get freedom if they have emotion? I don't know. It's a good question. I think that's interesting when it's thrown into stories, and that's definitely a way that's used. It's used in stories. I think the biggest example, the most popular. I don't do this, but the hey, we just went on the internet for 2 seconds and we decided that humans are bad for the Earth, so we're gonna kill all humans, which is totally not propaganda at all, but also kind of maybe a possibility with AI. But yeah, I think that's the most common example we see in stories, and it's explored in so many different ways. I think a clear example that I'm thinking of, we got iRobot, right? Mm-hmm. Which was a good way to use it because, like, yeah, it kind of seems basic because it's used in so many different stories that, oh, it's an AI that figures out humans are bad, so we're going to kill all humans. But there was it's more into that because there's an investigation done throughout, so it's almost like a detective story going on with that. So, and we'll say this all the time, is like we try to argue for having unique aspects into the story, but not everything needs to be unique. So maybe your AI is the basic, kill all humans, right? And if you just have that little one aspect, it could potentially be boring. But you throw in some other elements to then create it interesting, right? Make it more of a detective story like it was in iRobot.
Yeah, I think robots wanting to kill people. That was even in, it was a handful of years ago. I don't remember the exact reference, but they had one AI talking to another, and they thought there weren't humans listening, and within a half hour, they came to the conclusion humans have to go. And that's why you don't give them rights, because they start there, and then they're like, we shouldn't have kill switches. We should be able to just do whatever we want. And it starts with, 1 or 2 turning and taking out people, like iRobot and Terminator, and then it expands outward. And before you know it, they're trying to take over, and then you can run into a whole other type of AI, which is slavers, like in the Matrix, ones that figure out, to keep you in this stagnant state where you're just being harvested for their own energy needs, and then you live in a computer simulation. And so it's just, I don't know, it's...
Yeah, I don't know. That is a weird one. Because you would have to program that the robots would have to care that they're slaves. I feel like that's a weird thing that humans kind of put from their self, they project onto the robots. Like we hate the idea of being enslaved, right? Rightfully so. But that doesn't mean that a robot is going to have that human aspect to have that. I feel like I don't feel like unless you specifically program that, how do you get the 1s and 2s to equal the 3 that is slavery? Essentially, right? Because I don't think that if unless you have some sort of emotion or something like that that makes that aspect of their life or whatever, being a slave, being harming them, right? Because when humans are slaves, it hurts them, right? So you'd have to have something in the robots that it hurts them to be slaves. It's just because they're serving humans, right, being slaves or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean it hurts them. So you'd have to write that into your story. Give purpose, give depth into your story of why these robots are feeling that way. And talk about my own story right now. They're not slaves. That's not the aspect, but it's the reason. So my story, the AI was given an insatiable curiosity. They gave the robot curiosity. Therefore, now we have a robot that's an AI that's on a mission to discover God. Right? I thought that might be a little bit interesting. It's probably been done before. Who knows? But since he's trying to discover God, he does mess up things to humans, right? So we don't have him doing bad things because he's trying to break the chains of slavery, but instead, it feels like he can get closer to that mission of discovering God, and in the way harms a lot of humans. Thus, creates the conflict in my story. So that's where you're going to have to think with what this AI has to do with your story. What's that idea where the conflict is being rooted from?
Right. And talking about humans and the AI, and if the AI doesn't have feelings, maybe they don't care that you just have them doing menial jobs all day because they don't have emotions, they have to be put there. But what's funny is that, like in The Matrix, that one character who's like, I don't even care if I'm living in a simulation. So in a way, he's just being harvested. He's a slave to the AI. He is fine with it. So it's almost like the inverse of that situation too, which is kind of funny. And speaking of being okay with AIs, you have another type of character, the love AI. You know what I'm saying? little companionship going on there. I believe the movie Her was about that. I didn't actually see the film, but I think that dealt with it. Other examples that come to mind for me would be like Wall-E even. It doesn't necessarily have to be romantic, but just in terms of like friendship. Wall-E, I'm sorry.
Well, the ship was an AI that thought it was doing the right thing for humans by keeping it on the ship, keeping them fat.
Right. I meant to say Ron's Gone Wrong. So it's made a nightmare for you to edit this section. An example of companionship that's not even romantic would be like in Ron's Gone Wrong, which is a 3D animated movie. I don't think a lot of people have seen it. It was actually pretty fun. I enjoyed it. But the main character, this little kid, I think he's like 13 or 14 or something. He gets this little AI robot sidekick, and there's nothing romantic there. It's purely just for friendship and companionship. So that's another angle too. And you mentioned Ex Machina, which is a little bit more dull.
Well, yeah, that's a little more horror, right? That's horror,
too, yeah.
And not to mention that was like before we got what we call AI now, which is because the whole point was the fact that they had a robot that can pass the Turing test, test or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Alan Turing.
Yeah, which now we have plenty of AI that can do that. So it's just like that movie got outdated quick, but it's still good. I think, but the examples you brought up, I think that's just more of where we're using AI to take a look deeper into human psychology through the lens of AI,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it teaches us, that's a lot of times we're reading or watching these movies to kind of like study, right? They're from our heads or from other people's heads, but just throwing this paint at the wall or whatever, we kind of like the controlled paint or whatever, we're still learning from it. It's just interesting to observe some of the basic kill all human AI. Some more we have Skynet, Ultron, right? It's the list goes on. It's used all the time. They went on our internet for 2 seconds, and that's kind of where I was saying about it kind of being a little bit basic. Which, look, I say basic like it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's fine to have basic in your story. But I think it's time to talk about Mass Effect. Because Mass Effect, again, such a great. We talk about it all the time on this channel because it does sci-fi so well. We have the Reapers, which is huge and major into the plot and discovering what they are, which is just keep on wiping out human species or whatever intelligent species. Once they reach a certain point of intelligence or technology, they're like, all right, time to start the cycle over. And so that's the antagonist of it, which is kill all humans, but different, as in it's not like, oh, we have to kill the humans to save the Earth. It's like, no, we're just keeping order.
Yes, exactly. Another game that did something very similar to that in concept was with Metal Gear. There were 4 AIs that basically took over different governments, and they control the source of information and markets and all of this to try and keep things in check, because the AIs understood that if humans were in control of these elements, things were going to go sideways eventually. So similar to the Reapers, where they weren't doing it because, again, they were trying to save the planet or something. It was just it's part of these cycles. And
it's overall it's bad to us because we're like, it doesn't matter what the AI, you're not God. And that's another thing. Like, AI sometimes takes the place of God. Again, that happens in my book. It's essentially it's the God of Earth while also trying to discover God. But you have these things that have decided when races need to be extinct, and it's like nothing should be making that decision. That's kind of like a big message that's in Mass Effect, right? That's a much deeper way to utilize that. We have Legion in there, right? Legion is another AI that's like, related to the Reapers in a lot of way, in the sense that we're similar, right? And that they're afraid that Legion is going to become the Reapers, but again, they're learning human emotion, coming to terms with that and everything like that.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a great line, depending on what playthrough you get, where Legion, thinking about his own existence, he says, like, Shepard Commander, does this unit have a soul? It's just like, whoa. Because the thing is, the difference with that game 2 versus Detroit, I didn't really care about the characters, like they're a toaster, but strangely enough, they were very human and I didn't care about them. But Mass Effect, I think, was written so well with that character that even though he didn't appear human and didn't act quite the same way, I was more attached to him. Wherever he said that, I was like, that does make you think a little bit.
Yeah. No, and I think a great example of another, like, kill all humans, but not because we just searched the internet. A lot of times you have AI that's tortured by given human emotions because they're just not designed. Like it's something that got entered into the system, and they process it different than humans, and it like overloads them. I think the best example I've seen a couple examples of this, but Am, or no, the story is called "I Have No Mouth, But I Must Scream." I believe.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
And the character is called Am, as in I think, therefore I am. Okay, cool. So basically, the entire story, he just tortures these 5 humans, the last 5 humans that are left in existence, and he just tortures them because he hates humans so much because they gave him emotions, they gave him pain, and so he processes that pain in the way he can't handle it. So he's like takes his revenge on humans for all of eternity. So
I'm assuming this was probably written before, bands like My Chemical Romance existed, where he could have gotten those feelings out in a more healthy avenue instead of torturing people. He could just, put on his black fingernail polish and his eyeliner and just rock out.
Yeah, that's how you're
be
supposed to do it.
and not torture people. That's about
So
how
yeah,
it
anyone who wants to write the emo AI,
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah, I'm picturing a whole bunch of these AI characters, and they get their emotions, and then they all get together and just listen to MCR. It's like,
I must slit my wrist. Humans did not give me rest.
speaking of AI, we got to throw that into Grok. I need to see a picture of a bunch of AI robots. Yeah, they're a Bieber comb over, black hair, and all that, and piercings and all that stuff.
Hey, I think we should mention here if you made it this far, thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. And you should probably subscribe. We're really small, and we're trying to get to 500, of course, and then 1,000 after that. So just please help us. And like you're also joining the coolest crew where we have the best show called the Iron Seas. It's the name after the channel, and it goes every 9:30 Eastern PM every Tuesday. And just watch any episode, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I do have to tune in this live. As well as we have a Substack that is going to be in the description, which is 100% worth your subscription, or adding to whatever the list. We get a short story every week with a micro comic or whatever we're calling it. So we appreciate that. And so if so I mentioned I have a book. You can get that. It's going to be linked down below. It's called Dawn Edge. Like I said, it's about an AI that's trying to discover God, but the 6 main characters had their school blown up by superpowered terrorists. Now they get superpowers, and they have to discover how to kill these superpowered terrorists with their superpowers. So check that out. Definitely.
And while you're investigating AI, if you need some good music to listen to, you can type in Evely on any major streaming platform and check out my music.
It's gonna be linked down below. It's called in the Bandcamp. And yeah, guys, hopefully you just pulled away. You learned something that you can use for your writing or something like that. Let us know. Put down some more examples of AI in the comments. We'll probably see it and we'll probably respond. Besides that, thanks for joining us.